I never said that for you before, so it really threw me off.
Scent. I like it.
All right, so I just want to say thank you before we get started. Well, while we're getting started, my name is Kylar Maldonado. I am Mr. Connecticut Bear 2020 to 2021. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm currently part of the Connecticut Northeast Ursamen, and we take care of New England, but we mainly are based out of Connecticut. So that is my story and who I am. So I will go. I don't even know how you guys can see it. So I will start with Ro.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Ruckus. I'm from Los Angeles, California. My pronouns are he, they. I am a co-founder of Ruckus Pet Pack, a pack specifically for trans, non-binary, two-spirit, on and on pet players. And I'm a member of leadership for Obsidian LA. I'm sure I do other things, but that's it for now, I suppose.
Thank you. And Mel.
I'm Mel, use they, them. I'm in a lot of stuff, but I'm not in a lot of like kink stuff. Like I don't really have an organization I'm a part of or anything. But I'm in Connecticut, mostly Hartford area. I'll leave it at that.
I will say, if it's okay for me to mention, Mel, we do go to kink nights, or we did used to go to kink nights in Hartford, which was a really cool event. So they're not a group, but I mean, we had quite a few trans people that do go there, and we all kind of gang together there, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And pop star Orion is next.
Hello, can you hear me all right? Awesome. My name is Orion, also known as Pop Star Orion. I use he, his pronouns. I'm a gender fluid trans person, born in El Salvador, raised in Los Angeles. I'm the current LA puppy, and who knows when my title year will end. I'm also the social outreach coordinator for Obsidian LA, the gender identity chair for Threshold LA, and a founding member of the Ruckus Pet Pack. That's me.
Thank you, and good boy Jack.
My name is Jack. I live in the Niagara Falls region of Ontario, Canada. I've been a low-key member of the kink scene online since like my teenage years. I took part in a number of Vampire Freaks events back when Vampire Freaks actually used to be a forum. And then from Vampire Freaks, when I got older, I moved on to FetLife and been a part of the kink community ever since, going to Pride events.
Nice, thank you. And Diamond Pearl.
Hi, I'm Diamond Pearl. My name is, well, yes, my pronouns are they, them. I'm non-binary. I am part of the Mid-Atlantic Onyx Pearls. And I am the current reigning and first Mixed Philadelphia Leather 2020, whenever it's done because of pandemic. And I'm from Philadelphia, PA.
Awesome. So I am, again, very happy that all of you are here, and I am excited to get this conversation going. So I wanted to start with, what is kink? What does BDSM mean? Is like group sex considered kinky? Like these are common things that I thrown into like the hat of like what is kink. So if anybody who would like to define what kink means to them.
I think kink to me is more of, I think it's just something that is like a part of who I am. I don't necessarily even consider it something that has to lead up to sex every time. I mean, sexual appeal obviously is like a big part of it, but like it's not like an essential part of sex. It's more like a community niche, I feel like, that I fit really well into.
Agreed. And anybody else? Feel free to just unmute. This one's kind of like an open discussion for this question. Sorry.
I'm trying to like figure out how to phrase this, but I feel like to a lot of people, kink is these sexual or non-sexual experiences that we have, obviously consensually, that are not considered normative for sex. I think that's like the blanket way that I understand how to define it.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with the with like non-conventional sexual practices, like non like I don't know, things that are seen as kind of like taboo, so to say.
Yeah, definitely not for the vanilla.
Yeah, it's definitely not vanilla. It's would be out of the vanilla realm of what everybody would consider quote unquote normal sexual activity.
Well, I've heard is group sex considered kinky, or is it considered vanilla still? Where does that lie?
I think it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a
for
lot of
interpretation.
people where like group sex can be normative to them. I've met a lot of people who are like, pissing isn't. To me, pissing is like one of the kinkiest things you can do, and maybe it's because I don't like it very much. Then I'm like, well, that's taboo. If you piss in me, like, wow, we're something.
It's really depends on who you talk to, because some people will be like, some people confuse being queer with kink, and like anything that's not like cis het like missionary equals kink to them, and that's like, we're gonna probably talk a whole lot about the like stigma and what that does, but it's hard to define it because I feel like we're gonna automatically be like, well, what kink is not vanilla, and to define it based on what it's not is really hard to do also. Like for me, I feel like it's a type of intimacy, it's a type of like, it tends to involve sensation, and I think it also needs to be acknowledged that it is not inherently sexual for everyone at all times. They often overlap for probably most people, but they don't have to, and certain acts might and certain acts might not. Like, it's a very wide world.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I was actually thinking like, so many people in itself think about kink sexually, and for me, I've been in many dynamics that have not been inherently sexual. I was in service for years before I did anything sexual to my mistress, and I think that, you know, not skipping ahead, but you know, for me, it's not even about non-conventional sexual practices, right? Because we know littles, you know, and for some, you know, like for some people, like these things are not inherently sexual, and I would say non-conventional, of course that's like subjective, right? But you know, quote unquote non-conventional practices and like what you're into, it doesn't inherently need to be sexual.
There we go. See, we're getting there. Everything's connected. All right. So, does anybody know what BDSM stands for?
I would hope most of us do.
Yeah, I'm like Tim.
Are we just like
Does anyone want to do the thing and list it?
Oh, for a lot of people that supposedly know what BDSM stands for, nobody's speaking.
Right?
I already feel like I'm going to be the one each question to be like, well, it depends on who you ask. Like, because every question I'm just going to answer that.
Yeah, I feel like that's just like the trans experience. And now I'm jumping ahead, and it depends on who you ask. But I was always taught that it was bondage, discipline, dominance. Was it the next letter? I'm so bad at this. See, this is why you don't ask the dog to do it. Okay, so then it's sadomasochism,
submission,
and then submission. Oh, submission, then sadomasochism. See, I get those flipped around.
It's okay, no judgment here. Well, just occasionally.
No judgment to my kink. Go ahead.
That's the Leo you're talking to.
True. All right. So my next question Do you know, so this is just kind of, we're just kind of going, and my thought process just kind of was jotting things down, so I'm sorry if things are kind of out of order, I will say that. So my next question was, do you know what these flags look like? Are there any that you may know about, but many others may not? So does anybody know what the Leather Pride flag looks like, and can you describe it?
Do a
I
slideshow.
personally don't
I
know
wish
a
I had a
lot of,
slideshow here. I'll just pull them up then. Hold on, I gotta write this down.
I thought I was wearing my pins. I was just gonna point, but they're not here.
Yeah, I mean, did anybody see that like new Leather Pride harness that got mistaken for like a Blue Lives Matter flag, which would make a really weird leather chest harness?
I could have swore that was Diamond with the story. I heard an Uber story about like a Blue Lives
Oh
Matter.
yes,
being-
I actually have an Uber story about
That was the-
this.
Okay.
I was in my Uber and my Uber driver mistook my mask for a Blue Lives Matter mask and asked me, it was like, hey, good to support the police, right? And I was like, no.
The one that I was thinking of was like a literal leather like bulldog harness, and people like it had to be said on the caption that it wasn't it. All this to say is that it's a blue, black, and white stripe flag with only one white stripe, right? Is it one white stripe?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
Or am I thinking of the puppy pride flag now?
Well, no, I think,
Did my puppy brain kick in? And it's got a red heart on it.
yeah, so you're right. Here, I'm pulling them up. I'm multitasking so many things right now.
No worries. I could listen to Diamond tell stories forever, so you're totally good.
Oh, so is there like more to the story, or was it just like they were?
We sat in silence for the rest of the Uber drive because it was just awkward after that.
Yeah.
Because I was on my way to a protest. Actually, ironically, I was on my way to a protest, and this happened. And he didn't even say a word to me when I left the car. Usually I say thank you for your service today, and I just left.
Sometimes it's better that way. Sounds
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gosh. All right. So this is what the Leather Pride flag looks like. So yeah, it was a.
Yeah, it is one white stripe. I knew that.
very close to the puppy flag.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you just flip it sideways.
Yeah.
like diagonal.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's the.
Puppy flag.
I also do know that the puppy pride flag is supposed to have like a slightly wider white stripe to represent its inclusivity. I've yet to see that inclusivity, but you know, who am I?
Sorry, gotta put my.
That's right. Just drink your water.
Here's the rubber and
Rubber.
latex flag.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, I don't see it as much over here in Connecticut. I feel like I see it everywhere else. I don't see it in like the Northeast much.
Yeah, when I was in Chicago, I saw like millions of them.
Yeah, there's like one. There's only like one person here that was rubber, but I'm really blanking on his name right now, and I feel really bad. He was the title holder here, but he travels a lot, so that's why I'm like I don't remember his name. Let's see. Oh, here's the BDSM one.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually when I worked at a trans top surgery or like surgery recovery center down in Florida for a bit, and the family that owned that business or were running it, they were actually part of like a kinky family, so they all had like that symbol like in the middle as for their pendants. They all had different forms of that, and it was cool.
Oh, that was really cool.
Yeah. So it was like a strange coincidence, and it was really great. They brought me to my first leather conference too. I was only like 18 or 19. It was great. See, and then there's that is not what the flag looks like. This one is the trans leather flag.
Yeah, Yes.
So because there's a trans leather flag, is there also like the gay leather flag? Or is it just like a leather flag?
No, I think they're good. They don't need one.
No, so I don't know. I feel that it's one of those things that kind of encompasses everything, I want to say. For like the leather flag, it's for like all people, but especially with trans people. Yeah, exactly. Like the trans people kind of get not kind of, but get left out of the kink community a bit. Hence this.
There is
And I have never
also
personally found that at all.
Where?
there is also a black and brown version of that flag as well.
I didn't know that. I've seen
And
it.
it's actually the Pan-African colors.
It's the what?
Pan-African colors.
Oh.
Yeah, red and green and black. It's really beautiful.
That's lovely.
Oh yeah.
I want to see it now.
I mean, it makes sense from a pride perspective, but also from a safety perspective, to be honest. I feel like we've probably all had the experience of being like the token XYZ person at an event. So if there's a specific flag that's like a shortcut and it's like, oh, okay, they have that flag, they definitely know their stuff. It's like, it's a safety issue. Not issue, but like indicator.
I completely agree with that. Thank you for saying that. I'm definitely like a token. I love this. So I'm like a token trans man for so many events here in LA, and I'm not even a trans man. But I'm still counted as their token trans man. They're like, oh, we got one. And I'm like, where? Where is he at?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I feel like me and Mel have definitely seen that here in Connecticut or in Mass and stuff. We've definitely seen being the token of things, which is great in some aspects, but then like it's like, oh great, this is why we're here, not just because of who we are like as a person, but this is why, because of this label we have. So
I love that people are like extra nice to me to seem inclusive, and then I sprinkle in that I'm not a man, and then I leave them in their own confusion and walk away.
They're like, but you use he, him. Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, you're the one who invited me to the all-male pool party. Like,
Oh,
you think I'm not gonna come when there's like an open bar?
The puppy side of me is just like the pool, though. The pool.
Yeah, I'm just there to swim. I don't own a pool. Do you know how hot it gets, like in the valley in the summer? No, thank you.
All right. So this kind of helps. How did you begin exploring your interest in the diverse community, and through forums like FetLife, through local groups, events at bars? How did you start doing this life?
I started with podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah, I started with podcasts. And I credit a documentary that I cannot remember the name of for the life of me. I watched some documentary about like porn creation, like how do they make porn? Because of course I did. It was something on Netflix years ago, and there was this like particularly heavy scene that they were filming that included drowning, which is like a dream of mine, by the way. Cough, cough. If there's anyone out there. Look, every space is a cruising space if you try hard enough.
I like that. Is that a tag? It should be.
It's gonna be my new tag. When people ask me what's my platform, say that.
Ryan, you're lagging a lot.
I remember like at the end of this, I don't really know how to fix that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It's
okay.
Crazy.
But with all the like rough and like the degradation sex I was having at that time, I realized I had never taken a moment to be kind to the person afterwards. And that's when it hit me that I wasn't doing something correctly. And it's really hard to admit, but I think I started on the wrong foot.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I've known how to like come back from that is by educating myself. And so for me, that started my journey to education when I was about 18 or 19.
Podcasts that I honestly have never really considered that one as like a learning tool. But also I only really listen to like music. I don't podcasts. I don't know. I lose track so easily if I don't have it physically in front of me.
I feel like I would have preferred a podcast. So my mom was kinky, and I found out the odd way. So that was my introduction. I grew up a lot around like a lot of queer people. My mom just in general had a lot of queer people in the house, and was a sex worker, and eventually she stopped working at Burger King and started leaving the house in pleasers. So like there was a moment where I was like, the Happy Meals stop coming in. Something's happening here. I'm no longer getting toys. There are other toys in the house. So that was my introduction. And kind of like it's always kind of been there. But I think the first time like I grabbed the reins and started looking into it, probably like I stumbled on porn at some point and saw it at some random age. And then, you know, like forums and chat rooms and FetLife, things like that. And then eventually actually being able to like go places when you're 18. Until then I was really curious, but like it was always kind of around, so it didn't feel so elusive for me. It felt odd for a while, so I actually had to like take a step back and be like, this isn't about your mom. This is like, you can do this thing, you know, because when your mom has floggers hanging around, it's just kind of odd. So I almost wish I had podcasts first, but maybe I would have found my mom there too. Who knows?
Maybe.
You never know.
Oh geez. We'll go with Jack. Jack, what? So you said FetLife and online stuff. What can you go into a little more detail with that, or how long ago it was?
Actually, it was way before I ever heard of FetLife.
It was the
So I started on Vampire Freaks when I was young, like 13, 14 years old. And I like obviously started lurking in like the 18 plus forum, being like 15. And I saw, I don't even remember, but it was like one of the like really well-known users, and he had posted a bunch of pictures of like himself and his mistress, and he had like a leather pup hood on, and I remember like, oh, like I would fucking love to have one of those. And I remember thinking that from way back when, and it had kind of like slipped my mind, I guess, and like stayed in the back of my mind for years. And then I had went to a Pride event 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago or so. And it was the first time I got to go see like a puppy pride thing, like here in Ontario. And I started to get way more into it. I started getting into the Facebook groups, the Instagram. I met my partner and expressed my interest to her, and she was super supportive. So everything just kind of blew open from that.
That's awesome. And Diamond Pearl.
So for me, I was kind of like indirectly introduced to leather by my aunt. She wore lots of leather as when I was growing up, and I used to spend a lot of time with her. And I would always be in her closet, and I loved the smell of it, and I loved touching it. I loved the feel of it and whatnot. So like when I think back to like where it started, I definitely think about like my childhood, because that definitely was like my first introduction to like my appreciation for it. Fast forward into like 2017, I tried to like enter into the scene, and I had like a really terrible experience with, you know, just feeling like I was very out of place. You know, I was told that I didn't really belong in the leather scene and stuff like that. So I kind of stopped, and it wasn't until I met my Sash dad, Jason Boyas, um, and his husband in Lancaster, my hometown, and found out they were into the scene, and they invited me out, and they introduced me to so many people, and I started becoming more comfortable and started to explore myself. And it was a really great experience for me, because at that point in my life, I was still struggling with the concept of, understanding myself and what I wanted with sexual experiences and other things. And the community taught me a lot of things that that I didn't know that I needed to know. So yeah, that was my introduction to the scene. Also, Twitter. Twitter was also
Oh, Twitter.
Twitter. I had a lot of followers on Twitter that were into the leather scene and stuff like that, and I was just like, if only I had the guts. And look at me now.
Exactly. Thank you. And Mel.
I feel like that's how it starts so often. If only I had the guts, and then 5 years later, you're like, oh, surprise. Like, the person with the sash running an event, and you're like, how did I get here? Yeah, mine was definitely, the internet, TM, for a while. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, okay, I can't tell anyone about this. Like, it has to be a big secret. Like, it was like a copy and paste of coming out as queer all over again. And then like hinted at it by chance to a couple of friends who immediately like dropped all pretenses and were like, well, here are the things I'm into, and this is the next weekend, and you should come to this. So I ended up going to, I think it's Fetfley in Rhode Island was my first event.
Yes.
And that was a very interesting time. Everybody was super welcoming. So that really helped me to like open up, make connections, all that. So I've gone to a few things like that, like Geeky Kink event was a lot of fun, stuff like that. I forget what else I was gonna even say about it. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Sorry.
No, you're totally good. So yeah, I kind of, I think I saw leather stuff in person when I was like 14 or 15. Like everybody has kind of mentioned porn. Definitely saw that when I was like 13, 14. But also at that time I was questioning why, as a lesbian, I was watching gay porn. So who knew? So I stumbled upon that online, and at Pride events I saw leather vests and harnesses and such. For example, my title great grandfather, I think, I saw him at Pride wearing this vest, or his version of the vest, and I was like, oh my gosh, leather and being a bear, oh my god, what is this? So yeah, life has been quite interesting figuring out all my fetishes and kinks and all that. My first harness I got from another trans person of color, and what's it called? I wore it, and I went to go surprise my stepsister in the kitchen. When I was living with my parents, and I was wearing my pup hood too. And of course, my mom was in the kitchen too, and she was like, "No, what are you wearing? I need to wear that first. I want to try it on." And my mom is the most wild thing possible. Seeing my mom, who she's very sex positive, she knows all about my life, she's great, but it was definitely a trip, and I was like, okay, maybe I need to hide this a little longer, but no, now I do anything and everything, and she's not surprised when I tell her. So kink definitely has been a big part of my life. Like I said, one of my major like life-changing events was going to Beyond Leather, which was a conference down in Florida, full of leather people of all different types, and very welcoming, very crazy experience. I couldn't do much because I was very new and I didn't have my own gear. I was being like a service boy for the weekend, but I definitely got to try some new things. It was great having people bidding to play with me, and of course I said that I had no safe word, and that got me into some good trouble though. So it wasn't bad. There was consent. There was a lot of great things that happened. So definitely love the in-person events that have given me a lot more education on what kink is and such. So it was really cool. So how do you identify in the fetish kink community? This means like, are you a pup? Are you a handler? Are you a dom? Are you sub? Are you a rope bunny, rope rigger, fister, fisting bottom, stuff like that? So there are, like I said earlier, there are a lot of identities in this community. So how do you personally identify, and can you be interchangeable, so to say? So Ro, do you want to start?
So how much time do we have? So I'm a dominant. I've worked in spaces as like a pro-dominant. I'm a handler. Happen to be the only one in my pack right now. Please help us. I'm a primal top. I'm a sadist through and through. Sexual top, which I will always deviate away from, like saying I'm a dominant, and that automatically assumes that I'm a top, right? Or they're not interchangeable to me. You can be a top and a dominant separately. Gosh, how else do I identify? The general pain in the ass. I do happen to, I guess, like fit the box typically. Like, you know, I'm not a bottom. I just a top. I'm not a verse. And Lord knows I've tried. But you know, for me, it can be interchangeable for other people. For me, I've found that it just doesn't happen that way, and I really, really tried. But for me, the dichotomy is there. It is what it is, I suppose.
Thank you for your Spark Notes version of who you are.
You're welcome. I didn't want to take like all the time, you know.
All right, good boy, Jack. How about you?
Well, I very clearly identify as a pup. I'm very submissive. I consider my partner to be my full-time dom. I think that being sub and being bottom are not like on par. I usually prefer to top, even though I am submissive. I promised I was going to keep bedroom talk to a minimum, so out of privacy respect, that's where I'm going to leave it.
Thank you. So, Popstar Orion.
So I don't know if anyone knows this, but I'm a puppy. Sorry, I had to. So I consider myself a puppy. Specifically, I also consider myself to be like a dog, like somewhere between like the interchangeable dog and puppy. And for those of you who don't know, some people consider like dog to be like a more mature puppy. So I'm a little more into my service and a little more settled when the time calls for it, and playful as fuck, and immature when the time calls for that as well. I consider myself to be a boy. I consider myself to be como se dice, a fisting verse. That's my fucking favorite thing in the world, to be honest. Could do that all day, every day. Either side of the slash is fine. I actually have a goal to get fisted everywhere I travel to. That's the hope and dream. So far in my title year, I've succeeded. I'm just throwing that out there. If I travel to your city and you're interested, let me know. Yeah, I really want to actually. Yeah, I'm an aspiring daddy. Like, I don't think I'm there yet. Oh, thank you for the little shake of the head. I want to be a daddy one day. I've been called daddy by like some people that are even softer than me, but I've come to realize that I'm not there yet. after being collared to my own daddy, which is really nice. Yeah, that's about it.
The shake wasn't at you. It was at Diamond Pearl for whispering into the nonchalant.
I really want to go to Philadelphia. It's on my list, and it was on my list for my title tour, like pre-COVID, but you know how that goes.
Yep. Definitely.
Whoa, we waiting over here, okay?
Connecticut's not far either. I'm just a couple hour drive from there.
So what I'm hearing is I'm going to Philadelphia and you're driving down, because Biff also owes me a stomping. So like, what's up? What's going on?
Yes. Okay.
It's a party. Got you. So now, Diamond Pearl, how do you identify?
I used to identify as a dom, but a lot of things have happened during the pandemic where I identify as a switch now. I am a cat.
Hell yeah.
You know, I am a fisting top. I love water sports. I love bondage. I love impact play. I am a daddy to a boy, and that's about it.
Thank you. And Mel.
So I have this like strong personal aversion to labels, and also like you need those. So like, how do I answer this question? Because for me, every connection I've had in kink space is different. It really comes down to like figuring out what their energy is and how does that mesh with parts of my energy, and like let's create something out of that. And sometimes that literally takes 5 minutes and we're like on stage doing the thing, but like other times it will literally take a year or two of getting to know each other and growing something that's a bit more like intimate and like deeper, if that makes any sense. So like I definitely lean heavily to like the dom side. I just really like that role. I've done impact play with several people. I've been like brat tamer or like big for a couple folks. So that's kind of, I guess, closest to the titles or like roles I'd have. I've only been able to be a cat in like pup space once, which I'm really excited you said that, because whenever I say that, people are like, you what? So like, we should talk later.
Yes, please. Fellow cats unite.
And then people are like, oh, so you're a furry. And I'm like, well, I mean, kind of, but that's an entirely separate character and separate thing. Like, no, it's a lot.
It is a lot. I appreciate that. I will say, so I am also a pup. I have 3 cats, so I kind of have, like, I love cuddling cats, so if anybody ever loves that, any cats or other puppies, I just can't have puppies in my apartment, but I love cuddling with cats, just a little wink wink out there. I am very much, I don't know, like the whole labels thing, I kind of just do everything. I sign myself up to, like, hang out with somebody and be like, oh yeah, I want to be your submissive little bitch, like make me your bitch. And then like in all reality, I'm like taking charge of the situation, riding the fuck out of their dick because I'm in charge in the situation. I don't know. My boyfriend's my submissive top. I am very much a dominant bottom, as much as I like to be a submissive bottom. Yeah, it just depends on who it is and how I'm feeling. I very much love rope. I find as a heavier person, people don't, I don't know. I've always found that not really a lot of people like to do rope here with heavier bodied people. So I don't really get to bottom much for that, and so to say. So I do a lot of the rigging stuff with my boyfriend. I like being fisted on occasion. It just depends on who it is, because I don't know. Trust and matters in that situation. I'm very much a handler or trainer when it comes to other pups or animals. So I don't know. all really depends, like we were saying, on the mood of the other person in the situation. So yeah, very much averse. There's not a lot of other people I found in Connecticut or in Mass. Not really a lot of people want to bottom for me, just because they're like, oh, I don't do toys. I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, looks like I'm bottoming again. So if anybody ever wants to come here and be a bottom for me, that'd be great.
Why does it feel like one just giant cruise session right now?
Wait, did I misunderstand
LOL.
what this was about?
Everybody's gonna be DMing everybody, like.
Panel. I thought this was
Quite right.
Yeah, this is all a big plot for me. I was just getting all the attractive people in one room together. Sorry. To publicly confess our feelings for one another. Great.
Misled and flattered at the same time.
It's the only way to be. So after all that, yeah, I'm glad we all are on the same page of like, not everybody has to be one specific thing. But if you are proud of it, like stuff like that. So I really appreciate everybody being honest about who they are and cool with it. So next question. So we're gonna start getting into the kind of like the deeper questions now, rather than like the quick answers. So I mean, you can still answer it quick, just I don't know, it's a little more thought provoking. So do you see kink as being something you do, like a sexual or a psychological practice, or something you are, like an identity? So what do you see kink as? Something you do or you are? And I did give everybody this earlier in the week, so you could think about it before this.
I'm gonna say for me, it's both.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think it depends on who you ask, and ¿por qué no los dos? Like it could easily be both, and for me, it's both.
Okay. Anybody else?
same. I think part of my struggle with labels is that that's true for a lot of things for me. Like, yes, it's a thing I do, but it's also a thing I am.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you can't like separate that or turn that off. Like, it's still a part of who you are, even if it's not something you're like actively talking about or exploring at that moment.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
Yeah, I do agree with, I was going to say both as well. Just because like I can't, like, how do I put it this way? Whenever I talk to people about like my kinks and stuff like that, I talk about the activity, but like if they try to like take that away from me, then like I don't feel whole as a person. So like I can't really separate that from myself. So yes, it's a little bit of both.
Mm. And Jack?
For me, it's more of something I am, because if I have the opportunity to like make it part of my day, you know, if I wake up, I'm collared, I put on my hood, and that's like my day. That's like who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of who I am, I think, than like something I just like do.
Got you. Appreciate it. And now Ro.
So I had like a whole paragraph on this, but I'm gonna take it easy. So you know, this is something I've had this conversation a lot, particularly because like I grew up with Kinksters around. So like even hearing how like my elders have talked, right, and this kind of like are versus do, and the way one or either have been used to like pathologize us, like particularly like in the medical industry, right? Like what we do inherently means like we are bad, we are evil, right? And like I'll say like while I'm both, like, you know, I walk around in leather constantly. I'm in loggers right now. That is my aesthetic, right? I don't have to do it in order to be it. And likewise, like, there are certain like, while it might be a part of me, there are going to be places where like I don't show it as much, or the way I show it is different. And like, I think at the end of it, it's like, I say both, and also acknowledging that like, I think that for maybe us, right? And this could be a projection. We could say like, we're both. And also like hearing the way that this conversation has led us to say both, I hear like these elders I've talked to who are like, will not say that they are, because the way that, you know, like them participating in kink, like in the 80s and the 70s, right? Like that was something to be pathologized, right? So for them to do the thing, they didn't want to say they are the thing. We're shifting towards like a state of being and like embracing that. And I kind of like see that shift. But I guess I wanted to bring that up because like, I really love this question, and I feel like I can't really answer it without saying like, acknowledging that shift, like me being able to say both inherently is because, right, like you have these people that were really like pushing on that, and we're pathologized. I mean, we're still pathologized, right? Like Kinksters in the medical industry and stuff, but I'll say both.
Oh, even pride.
I'm sorry?
Even pride.
You know?
Have a debate again.
You know?
The yearly thing.
All the time.
For the 11th time.
11.
Honestly, though.
I really appreciate everybody discussing this question. Yeah, I'm very much on the both aspect. It's definitely encouraged who I am. So yeah, I'll do a short answer. Take a little shortcut, but yeah, it's both. So the next question is, are the BDSM dynamics you experience or have experienced solely contained to a scene or occasions you have had sex, or are they 24/7? So it's kind of like the same question, or a little more extensive from the first question. Is it 24/7 or just in the scene for you, or somewhere in between? I'll say it's kind of like it depends on 20. I think mine's kind of on 24/7. Like I don't wear my leather 24/7. I don't like I don't know, the way my boyfriend and I talk in public are kind of similar to how we are at home. I'll say certain things, like even just picking where we're gonna eat for lunch. Like my boyfriend just goes like, I'm your sub. You're supposed to be in charge of the situation. Be a dom right now. Pick where we're gonna eat. I'm like, oh no, no, this is not what I was planning. So yeah, I don't know. Mine's kind of both, 24/7 and just in scenes. So yeah, I don't know. Has anybody else run into that situation?
I'm laughing at the food thing because that's come
I
up for me
love that.
times. Where like, aren't you in charge? And I'll be like, yeah, I am. So you decide and impress me. Like I'll switch it back.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a good one. Wow.
Just for
If
future
anyone ever
use.
did that, I would be so pissed. I'm gonna say it's a little bit of both. So I say that I'm in a 24/7 like partial power exchange relationship. I don't give up everything to my daddy. I do give up a lot of things to my daddy. And yeah, and even like recently I tried to purchase some leather shorts, right? And by the time I deposited my check, they weren't on sale anymore, and I casually just mentioned it. And he went, so you're not allowed to buy them. And I was like, wait, what? And he goes, they're not on sale. I know your finances. You're not allowed to buy them. And I was crushed because, like, I need some new leather shorts, but also, like, he's right. And the only thing I could do was, like, grit my teeth and say, Daddy, I appreciate you caring about my financial situation. Because I'm not going to argue with that. Like, he's right. But there are aspects of our relationship 24/7 I don't want to be. I very much would not like that. And then when it comes to like gender, there are times where like I want to be called like a good girl while playing, but that is definitely not 24/7. Meanwhile, 24/7 I want to be a good boy. So like it depends. I am his puppy 24/7, but I am not everything else that I am to him 24/7. And that's what I would say.
Thank you. Who else needs to speak about 24/7? Who picks where we're eating?
Not me. I'm socially submissive. It's not me.
I mean, I'll use that like jokingly in my like I guess primary relationship, like it comes up like that, but the actual dynamic is definitely not. I feel like I'm contradicting what I said earlier, but for that specific piece of like, is it like active 24/7, I guess? Like it's not, because for me it really can't be. Like I really need things to be like defined space and times. That's a safety issue for me, because of who I am, I guess, and what I do and how I'm connected to a lot of other people. Like there's no way that I can have that in my head when I'm like doing youth work, for example. Like it has to be very separate. So that's like a separate piece of me that only comes out in like defined kink specific space and time. And we can make that space. We can say like, hey, we're doing this tonight at my house with just this one other person, but it has to be like intentional, if that makes any sense.
Right. And no, talking about your primary, I'm, I don't know. He's a wild one too. Anybody else have anything to say about the 24/7 or in between or just during playtime?
I definitely experienced both. I have a full-time boy that I keep in contact with, and we have our dynamic and stuff like that. But I definitely have had scenarios that are just in the bedroom or whatever scene I'm in. I think I prefer to keep it within a scene sometimes because it is a lot of work. I'm finding it to be a lot of work to keep a dynamic 24/7, which I was not prepared for, which we definitely have had conversations and communication about that. Communication is very important when you're having a 24/7, dynamic. So, but I do think that both can be achieved, are both definitely.
Sorry, I lost like half of that. The like internet was very unstable or something. Told me.
Oh, I was saying that both can be both can have their space. Yeah, basically.
Gotcha. Thank you for repeating. Sorry, this weather really is kicking my ass with this. Ro or Jack, do you guys have anything else to say?
Do you want to go first? I'll go first.
Absolutely.
So I have a complete scene dynamic split. So in a scene, I might be, I say this to folks like, particularly like on Instagram that want to like DM me and shit. I'm like, I'm a daddy, not your daddy, right? Like I'm a dominant, not your dominant. So in scenes, I'm a top, right? Like in scenes with my boy, I'm their daddy, I'm their dominant, I'm their sir. I am in the 24/7. They give up a great deal for me. I give up a great deal for them. I will not make restaurant decisions. I'm socially submissive. But yeah, for me, in a scene, I'm just a top. I'm nothing to scene right now. I'm a daddy that stomps Orion at a bar. I'm not Orion's daddy. Like these things for me are very split because, like Diamond was saying, it takes a lot of labor. It's a labor of love to have these dynamics and be 24/7. And I have enough with a bratty boy. Like I when I go to a bar and I stomp a friend or whatever, like that's, it's in this pretty little box and it stays there. We put it on a shelf. We can look at it. but you know, I'm not texting you in the morning to make sure you got up on time or you're checking your emails and all that. So for me, there's an absolute split because the amount of labor that goes into it. It would be unfair for me to do that all around. And in my opinion, just bad ethical practices that would leave me burnt out in no time.
Appreciated. And Jack.
For me, I would also say it's a bit of both. My like kink, I guess, has become like kind of an aspect of my personality. I'm always like very, very happy-go-lucky puppy. Like I'm always trying to please. You know, like whatever she wants, like I'm gonna do it. You know, if she wants me to go and fetch her a bunch of things, I'm gonna happily go do it. But that doesn't always like necessarily go into the bedroom. Like maybe I'm puppy in the morning, and then later in the day I don't want to be puppy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of whatever ends up happening.
Right. Oh. Yeah. He would hate me if I said this, but I kind of forgot. I do have an alpha that we are a prospective alpha, long distance. He's in Boston, but I have been getting to know him. He's somebody I met through Twitter, and it's interesting because I actually went to go see him and his husband or boyfriend a couple weekends ago, and we went out to lunch. And I when I was trying to find their apartment, I was like running across the street or something, and I hear his husband call out Zeus, and immediately like my puppy ears and tail started like went up and just stopped, and I was like, what? And then I just saw them, and I got super excited, and I was super pumped. But then like when we went to like lunch, I was like, okay, just engaging my interactions. And then like me and my alpha went to go sit in like a park, and there was like all these kinds of dogs, like bio dogs, like walking around, and I got super excited, and he could see that. And he's also a pup, so like we both were like, oh my gosh, let's go play with the puppies, but we can't do that. We can't go say hi to the puppies. But yeah, it's definitely it's something I'm learning, because that I feel like me and him are like at a 24/7 kink dynamic, but it's new, so I'm also gauging that. So it's definitely both along. All right, so I think okay. Does your kinkiness empower your gender or vice versa? How do those correlate and such?
There's nothing more empowering than being told you're a good boy.
Oh yeah. I second that.
I also
That's like peak gender.
I feel gender euphoria every time I dress up in my femme and I'm able to be a dom to somebody that's more masculine than me. So yes, it definitely empowers me a lot, because for a very long time, you know, feminine features or anytime I dress femme or whatnot was seen as like outcasted or weird or weak or stuff like that. So whenever I'm able to be in that dominant, you know, position and have my hair, my nails done, my makeup done, and, you know, stomping on somebody with my heels or something like that empowers me. Makes me feel like bad as shit.
Oh yeah.
Euphoria. I think for me, there's a lot of times where I don't know if this is, I feel like it's tied into my gender. I don't really consider myself masculine or a masculine of center person in any regard. But I think that my gender definitely is tied to this idea of strength. And of being strong, which I know are like traditionally viewed as masculine. I just don't see it that way. So when I play, and specifically when I do like a heavy bottom scene, I feel strong and I feel like a little tough boy, and that's what I want. Like that's my actual gender, is I just want to be a little strong boy. So I feel like they definitely are intertwined. And
Thank you. Sorry, I'm writing down like notes because I'm like, oh, I love this. Um, Anybody else have anything else to say?
I mean, I have so many things to say. That's the problem.
Row, give us the spark notes.
I don't know how to do that. You know, I don't know how to do that.
I know, we both.
But I'd say they're definitely connected for me, but the way they're connected changes. Like just day to day outside kink space. Like if you misgender me, I will fight you. You see my pronouns, like here they are. I'm wearing a pin, you know, like I'm that person. Sorry. But with kink space, it's different. Like for some reason, I think it's something about the performance aspect and something about like the extremism. I like to doll up for kink space, but that can mean different things. But a lot of the time that means getting like really hyper femme and then going into like traditionally masculine spaces and like mind fucking everyone, which is a ton of fun for me. But then also those kind of spaces are where I will especially like react very positively to like the he, him, and the daddy and that kind of language. So like, but I think there's something to be said about like just the extremism of performing gender and then performing gender in that space and how it's like affirming, even though it's not a gender presentation that you would have every day or not pronouns that you use every day, because you're pushing multiple boundaries and exploring multiple things at the same time.
See, this ties to another question I had given everybody, which was all right. So we'll get to that in like a second. I do want to say so. Before I get to that, do you feel safe in those spaces, in those hyper masculine spaces? Does anybody feel safe there? Do you feel safer at like a friend's house party versus like a dungeon party or dungeon event, local gay bar event versus conference? Like, where do people feel safer at?
power each other. Shout out to the little meow in the background. I just wanted to point that out. That was great. Uh, I think I feel my safest at conferences, because a lot of the people, I don't know, just they kind of strike me differently. Um, I've unfortunately had people come up to me at like bars and like touch me without my consent. But I've noticed I feel a lot safer since getting collared, which is really fucked up. But a lot of people are, if they're educated enough to like understand what a collar is, a lot of people leave me alone now. And I definitely feel like at my safest when I'm with friends, even if we're like not in a space where would be comfortable like alone. Like let's say I was in the same bar, same event, but with a group of my friends, even when I'm walking alone, I notice that my friends notice the way people interact with me and will come up and interrupt if something's going wrong. I can even like say yes to someone touching me and they'll still like look at me like, are you sure? We just want to make sure because we know that fucker isn't your type.
Yeah, I feel like with that conferences, my thing is like I know I'm surrounded by a lot more people that I don't know, but also at the same time by people I do know or know me. So I kind of have more eyes out there, so to say. But I will always prefer my local gay bar just because we're like a huge family there. And the people that run the Kink Night event are very close friends of mine. So like they're always asking how to make it more safe for trans people or queer people in general and the people of color. So they're older cis white men, but they're open to communication, open to advice to make it willing for other people, which is I feel in Connecticut kind of rare. So yeah.
I feel like safety, like when we bring up safe spaces, it kind of like, I get a little like, you know, just because safety is, for me, feels like such a moving pin, right? Like, what kind of safety? Like, because I mean, rest assured, like, am I more safe than a femme? You know, like in, you know, like a classic cis male bar where I'm gonna get assumed to be cis male? Like, absolutely. You know, one of the things that always troubles me is like, even in like what everyone has said here, what kind of undergirds that safety we feel is the knowing, right? You know somebody in the crowd, you know somebody's looking out for you. And I always get really nervous about that. I guess more so now because I'm like gonna have to travel to a new space soon. But like, I always wonder like what that's, you know, for me, if safety is a moving pin, right? Which it often feels like for me, if our safety is always in the knowing when we don't know people, then what, right? Like Orion and I going to a similar bar, you know, like the same bar. I mean, that's a lot of the reason we started the pack, right? Is like, you always know, like, even if we didn't come together, like you got somebody looking out for you all the time or to pick you up, you know. But what undergirds that, like as trans folk, right, is that knowing. And like, you know, I'm going to be going to Houston soon. I don't know anybody in Houston. If you're watching this from Houston though, like please hit me up. You know, but like a lot of it is like creating these safety nets for ourselves. And that's innately what makes me uncomfortable, even at my safest, right? Like even if I'm going to a dungeon where I might know a few people or know no one and there's DMs, right? Often where I feel my safest, whether that's projected or truth, is going to be like if I know folks. And I guess that's where I get really like, ugh, when we talk about safety, I'm like, well, what? I guess I think about those who like don't know folks, right? Like the new Kinksters who come in, or this random person, you know, because we all like, if you have a home bar, you see somebody walk in, you're like, I don't know that person. Who is that person? You know, and like, what does safety look like there? You know, because
So
often
what do you, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what do you do if you walk into a bar, like a new bar, and you don't know anybody? What do you do in that situation? Like, do you stay and try to like figure it out, or what happens? That's kind of like where I was gonna go with next.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I tend to like clutch the counter. And what I mean by that is like, I'm hovering at that bar because I mean, and this is again, a lot of projection, right? Like that the bartender's going to save me, or I can get in touch with somebody quickly, right? Like this depends a lot on the bystander, in which a lot of us know can't be trusted sometimes. But I tend to like clutch the bar, or I mean, I hate to say it, right? But this piece of leather, I've already got in contact with a couple bar owners in the South, you know, who like know I'm coming. So this in itself sometimes is like a safety cloak, you know, where before, I mean, I'd go to bars around LA, no one know who I was. And they might not still know who I am, but they see this like piece of leather with a patch on it. And suddenly, you know, people want to know you. And that in itself is, you know, something for sure. But I mean, my protocol is typically, if I don't know somebody, I try to go with somebody I do know if I know someone. And if I don't, I clutch that bar quick and hope I can get a beer.
There you go. How does anybody else feel on this topic? Do you stay? Do you go? Do you clutch the bar? If Mel can attest, I definitely sit by the bar with 20 glasses of water, or I will go and harass my friends in the most loving way. So what do you all do?
I definitely can relate to like the feeling of safety and like not knowing people, because like I was still fairly new when I entered the community and whatnot, like back in 2018. And like it was nerve-wracking. I didn't know anybody. So like I was always clutching the bar myself, just because I, you know, didn't know how interactions would go and whatnot. And I think as someone that, you know, sometimes presents a lot feminine at times. You know, I often am overlooking my shoulder because, you know, people sometimes are very cruel and will say harsh things, or I've had a time where someone, you know, touched me without my consent, like my hair without consent and stuff like that. And I'm just like, what the hell are you doing and whatnot? So I definitely feel that, you know, I still want to put myself out there, but I'm always going to have my reservations in the spaces that I go to, even if I'm at my local bar or home bar, even at bike stops. Sometimes, like my home bar, the bar that I represent, like I still am feeling like I have to like watch my areas of peripheral vision just because I don't know what's going to be coming my way or what people might be saying about me because I'm in this space and I'm not your traditional, you know, quote unquote, what people see as leather. So
Thank you. Yeah, it's
but
definitely.
they ain't gonna stop me from having a good time. And if they want to try, they can go ahead and try all they want to. But definitely looking out for my safety is very much important, and looking out for safety of someone new as well. If I see somebody that is like a new Kinkster, especially if they're a person of color, you know, giving them the 411 of what's going on in the bar, like what to look out for. You know, I feel like we don't do that as much as we should in the community. We like leave people hanging out to dry, and I would love to like be more of a reaching out of a hand to people like, hey, like if you're new, like let me introduce myself, like this is what goes down here, whatnot, and this is what you look out for. And if you have any questions, I'm right around the corner. So, you know, reaching out and giving that comfort to somebody that may be new. Because you don't know what's going through their head, and they may be, you know, one look or one comment from busting out the door, not coming back. Right. And that's a person lost, potentially lost for our community.
I very much agree with the whole looking out for other people, like the new ones there. I find myself doing that. That's my like form of safety, is like clinging on and making sure everybody else is safe. I always go around whenever I'm at like our home bars leather event. I'm always checking on everybody, making sure everyone's okay, making sure the people who run the event have everything running safely for them. Anybody that is new, I do update them and let them know that the owners of the bar are very, very, very loving and friendly, and that they're always open to suggestions to make it safer, to ensure that everybody's happy and healthy and doing what they got to do and enjoying themselves. So I do like to give people the like 411 on like, here just to let you know, like this place is one of the safest places. If there's a problem, tell any of these like top like 10 people, because there's a lot of us that are always like willing to be that like holding hand and like willing to go to the bathroom with them. We used to have what's it called, binary bathrooms, but now they're pretty gender neutral and great, and that's something that the owners have really listened to us about, and has definitely helped everybody to ensure safety. So yeah, I don't know, making sure that everybody else is safe has kind of been my safety. What else? Jack, I haven't heard from you in a little bit. Have you experienced any like public, or not so public, but like any leather events or anything outside of your home?
I mean, I haven't really gone to too many kink events, except for like ones that would be happening at Pride. Like Pride Week here in Ontario is a pretty huge deal. We get people coming from like a whole bunch of different countries, and like people from all over Canada like specifically come to like the big one we do here in Toronto. And I'm usually like puffed out like the whole time I'm there. I've had instances where I'm approached by like gay couples pretty often. I understand I come off as a very cute twink, and I'm always invited to be a third, but I have to politely decline very often. And I haven't really ever been in situations where I felt unsafe because I've always like had my partner with me. I've always had like family or friends. But I mean, I think if I didn't have anybody with me, like especially later at night, I'd probably feel a little bit unsafe. But I mean, I've been pretty privileged.
I'm glad your partner has been like somebody to help you through with that kind of stuff. It was always good to
Oh,
have.
she would help me.
Orion.
There we go. I want to parrot what Diamond said about like always being out there for like new people. That's how I kind of ended up being a social outreach coordinator. It's just that I was constantly being like, you don't feel safe here? I don't either. You know where you will feel safe? Come to my event. And I have like this distinct memory of being followed around a dungeon by this like white cis male DM from another room who just like literally followed me everywhere I went. And like at some point I was just playing with it, and I like did a sharp turn into the kitchen and then walked around the table, and he followed me around the table. I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna steal from here. And then I whipped around and started like backtracking, and then he got confused and tried to walk backwards. And then someone noticed and literally stepped in front of him and was like, is there a problem going on here? And then I started talking to that person in Spanish and was like, does he just do this all the time? Does this happen when you come here by yourself? If it does, you should come to my party where like I'll make sure all the DMs are like queer people of color, and they won't use any of the DMs here. So that's what I do, is I create my own community because I know that's something that I can maintain and keep safe.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Mel, did you have anything to say?
I mean, I have a lot to say all the time. But I feel like I have a weird, complicated answer to this, and it honestly makes me sad. Safety's complicated when you're like the femme in the room. My partner and I both stand out for really different reasons. So even when we go together, it feels safer, but it doesn't. And I want to say, like, of course I'm safer at like local events with my friends, but it's a different type of safety, because when you're in like a community space and everyone's a family, like that assigns meaning to more actions, if that makes sense. So like when people don't acknowledge you because they're in a different headspace, like that can matter. Or like when people buddy up with known abusers because they have to, because this is a space for everyone, that or make experience that person a different way, not welcome, but like, what can you do? I've seen that. I've had absolute strangers interrupt my scene once in a community space that my friends were running. And like, that's just kind of what happens because we're like a small group and oh, they're just playing, but also that's such an issue. Like that is such a problem. And like at a like conference, convention, whatever, I mean, that could happen, but that person would be removed immediately. You know what I mean? Like no questions asked, but because we all know each other, it's like, oh, just calm down. So it's tough. Like it's safe in a way, but it's also like really not. Like it almost feels safer in a room full of strangers. And like that's something that I'm always thinking about and feeling weird about. So sorry to bring it down a little bit, but like I feel like that needs to be acknowledged too.
No, yeah, definitely appreciate it. Definitely have seen it. Definitely. Yeah, like you said, situations like that, if it were at a conference or something, people would be removed or people would be talked to a lot more strict or harder or taken more seriously rather than at local events. So it is kind of sad to see. So yeah. Okay, so let me read my little paragraph I wrote here. So ultimately, being a trans person in kinky spaces is a brave act to do. You're not only outing yourself as a person who enjoys fetish and being a kinky little babe, but you're also being more vulnerable as a trans person in these spaces. Not everyone is privileged of having the experience or good enough expensive gear, and so on. Being a POC in places that are more so dominated, no pun intended, by super masculine white cis men, no matter their sexuality. What is a thing or two that you want people to know to encourage opening a space to ensure safety and entertainment for everyone? All gender identities and expression, all race, all age, over 18, because like you got to be legal, and all sexualities, all relationship types, all people. So what is something that you suggest to ensuring and encouraging opening up a space for everyone?
Education.
Yes, totally.
You can finish that.
I was gonna just say, like, the first and foremost, like, listen to us, hear us, seek us out, like, center us. Because I think there's this weird trend of people being like, I'm inclusive, like, I'm saying that this is a safe space, but like they don't actually do the legwork of like unpacking their shit and getting educated, as Diamond said, and like asking us what the fuck we want. Like, and then also like at some point recognize that like there is some power in exclusivity, and we're gonna throw our own things and we're gonna do our own thing, and that is not for you to like throw a hissy fit about. Like, if you really cared about like trans liberation, part of that is sexual liberation, and part of that is maybe we don't want to fuck with you, literally. Maybe we're just fine fucking each other.
Agreed. Thank you. And Diamond, you were starting to talk at the same time, so your turn.
Yeah. You know, I think one of the things about exclusivity, like I was explaining this to my boyfriend, and he was like kind of confused. It's like, why do you need to have spaces that are exclusive just to trans people? It's like sometimes it's hard to live in a cis world 24/7, and we just want to have the company of, you know, our own and experience our own and whatnot. So it's nothing personal, but you know, it's necessary sometimes. So yeah, that's all I had to add.
Thank
I
you.
definitely think it's necessary. I feel like we don't have a lot of those kinds of spaces here, and that's one of the reasons why like I've kept my whole life a secret from pretty much everyone. Like all the friends I have in my life now, they're not friends that I had as like a child. They're friends that I made after becoming who I was, and like very few people know that like I had a life before. So I think spaces like that would be important. You know, it'd be different. It'd probably be a really healthy experience for me to have a place where I could talk about myself and like maybe be the person I was, or like how I got to be here. But as of right now, that's not a thing that's here. So it'd be great if there was.
One day it will happen, and maybe you'll be all behind it. You can create that space and make it happen.
Working on it.
And Ro.
I'm trying to think of just two things. So first and foremost, know that we're tired. And what I mean by that,
God, yes.
and what I mean by that is, you know, I think there's this kind of like unifying narrative that kind of gets trailed through And I've definitely been trapped in it before, right? Like, we're just gonna, you know, at my home bar, we're all just gonna be friends and I look out for everybody and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I think part of that inclusivity work, that bar owners, space owners, things like to do is inherently exploitative, right? Like that labor, that work to make their spaces more appealing ultimately falls on us without compensation. So include us, give us a space and all that, and on top of that, compensate us, right? And I think that there's a gap when it comes to, you know, providing, like, you provide the space and that's it. You just kind of provide a vessel where you get free publicity for it. You get the inclusivity check mark, you get, you know what I mean? You get all this stuff, right? And in exchange, you have exhausted folks in your community, you know, and it's really just pervasive everywhere. You know, it's not just LA, it's not just Philly, it's not, you know what I mean? Like it's everywhere. And it's like for every ounce of space we get, there are so many trans people, especially, right, like Black trans femmes and, you know, like all these people who continuously have done this work, who have been exploited and exploited and exploited by these spaces, you know? So first and foremost, it's like, we tired, right? And what I, you know what I mean? And like, secondly, you know, I think that one question I feel like folks should be asking is like, who does it serve? And I feel like that's not, you know, a question that's asked enough in our communities because, you know, I feel like because we're kind of like this fringe community, it's like kinky space and it's enough. And it's like, no, you know, like who it serves is often cis white men. Who it serves is often trans men who pass in these spaces. You know, who is often pushed to the periphery? Black trans femmes, Black people in general. Like, you know, like this shit is real. And, you know, asking the questions of our events and of our spaces and of our promoters, like, who does this serve? Starts to scratch at that question and at these spaces and really forces them, well, hopefully, right, to like look in the mirror. Because, I mean, you can't ask who does it serve without then looking and be like, oh, this is why they tired, right? Because like we're always the ones doing the work. And especially with, you know, so many spaces that are, you know, carry, like all spaces, inherent anti-Blackness and, you know, like transphobia and all these other super layered, nuanced experiences that like do not give us space. And I mean, thirdly, because I'm just going to go on this tangent. Like your capital, like your, whether it's your social capital or your capital is a space, like give the space up, give it the fuck up. Let us do what we need to do with it. And we don't owe you shit for it. Like if you're really trying to be exclusive, or inclusive, if you're really trying to do this work, like whatever this work is, insert whatever cool word that people love to like use. If you're really trying to do this work, then doing this work means that like you don't get that capital, right? Like we're going to use this space because you have this thing, and that's where the equity lies, right? Like you have the bar space, you have the money. The reason why we don't have spaces, we don't own spaces, especially like as like trans people of color, you know what I mean? Like it's because we don't have the capital, right? Because of a lot of historic and nuanced shit. Give it up and just let it go. Give us a space. You don't need to own it. You don't need to capitalize on it. We don't need your DJs. Like we have plenty of talent. Trust, right? Give us the art autonomy back and allow us to use these spaces. And that's it. I'll just stop at 3. But that's my big things. Those are my big.
You better go off.
No.
I want you to keep talking. I agree.
No.
Very much agree.
I'm just gonna sip this order. I'm gonna sip this.
I was here for when it said, pay us our money. Yes, pay us our money. Run us the coin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ro. Like, honestly, if these bar owners would just like be like, we recognize, or like even these like dungeon owners or whatever would just be like, we recognize that like we have this space and there's a reason why y'all don't. Here, have a comp night, do whatever you want. But no, like they're still like, oh, look at all the events I throw. And I'm like, no, look at all the events we throw and pay you to throw.
Mm-hmm. make your voice heard. It pays off to speak the fuck up. And if there's an issue, we got to confront it. So, Mel, do you have anything to say?
Not after that.
I know, Ro kind of took everybody's like thoughts.
Everything Ro said.
I'm just gonna go now. I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna.
Oh no.
Ro, you're cut off speaking for the rest of the evening.
I guess the only, like, all of that, and in addition to thinking about, like, who does it serve, it's okay to look around the room and be like, who isn't here? And then Google it. Like, don't call your one Black friend and say, hey, why aren't people coming to my event? Google it, figure it out, and if you do want to talk to somebody, because you should eventually, compensate them for their time. Treat them as a consultant. Stop making us, like, have to force our way in and have to, like, defend how we feel. Like, listen to it. Do not argue with that. You know, like, I wish more people would do that. And I have
I'm straight up getting war. No, yeah, I'm getting war flashbacks. Like, I swear to God, there is this white cis puppy who's like, I know my event's gonna be hella white before it even happens, so can you bring some of your friends? And I was like, did you just ask me to, like, bring the brown people?
Do not tokenize the people you know. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Exactly.
Big yikes from me, dog.
All right. I really appreciate everybody's feedback during this whole panel. It is time to hear from the audience, if there is anybody that would like to speak up. But before I do get to that, somebody did ask me to ask a question. Here, I'll read it from them. I hate paraphrasing for people. I like to be exact. So somebody had said, lately it seems that I find myself interrupting a lot of fetishizing of trans folks by cis men. I'd love to get some tips on how to best address this as an ally, if you have time to talk about it. So, and what are some tips you feel would be appropriate? Really got everybody scratching their head.
I mean, I just didn't want to go off on another rant so close to the last time. But, like,
Do it.
my one tip is every time you see it, interrupt it.
Mm-hmm.
Just interrupt it. Honestly, like, I'm thinking specifically of an instance where I brought a trans friend to an event at, like, our home space because this is a safe place and I know everybody and we've got each other and, like, it's going to be fine. But there's always that one guy. And there was that one guy. And he came and sat at our table without being invited and started touching him without asking and blah, blah, blah. You're trans, I can tell. Trans men are so hot. Trans men this, trans men that, like, grabbing on him. And, like, I don't exist. Like, I'm interrupting. I'm getting pushy. I don't exist. I'm a woman. He doesn't care. So, like, one of our cis masc friends came up and just kind of took in this scene. And I was like, do you need help upstairs? We got to go upstairs? And he was like, yes, right now. I need you specifically, the two of you right now. And, like, you know, and of course that gets respected. So, like, if you have a privilege like that, if you're, like, the cis white guy or, like, read as that, use that to interrupt what you see. Like, we're tired, to paraphrase you from before. Like, we don't need to fight that fight 9,000 times. We've already done it. If you have the ability to cut that situation short, please use it. That's mine. That's the one thing.
Like, I very much agree, because I feel like people don't take what trans people say seriously. Like, I feel like in that situation, I remember that day, because I think he came up to me before, and it was very gross and disturbing. And people don't take us seriously, and it's just people. If we say we're uncomfortable, they're like, oh, no, you're not. But then once a cis person is like, oh, yeah, they're uncomfortable. Like, oh, okay, thank you. Like, now you're finally understanding. Like, you have to hear it from somebody else, like, that's cis, to understand that we are not okay and that we are exhausted. And so, yeah, use your privilege wisely. Use it to help. Don't just sit there and see it happen and just be like, oh, I'm cis, like, I shouldn't have to, like, I don't want to interrupt, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, fucking use it. We don't need to keep correcting people, and you know how many people we have to correct every day. Like, it's tiring. This is not the first time it's happened today. It's not going to be the last. It's not going to be the last of our entire lives. So yeah, like Mel said, use your privilege. We need it. Anybody else?
The only thing I want to like second what Mel said. My understanding of the question is this person has been interrupting and they're looking for like another thing to do. I don't think there is another thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think like what you're doing is right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any tips for you. You're doing the thing. Good job. Keep fucking doing the thing. Because yeah, like it's so fucking hard, and there's been times where like I've tried to be the polite trans person, be like, here, let me explain to you why what you're saying is like problematic and kind of fetishizing, and it doesn't get heard. It doesn't get heard ever, and it gets to the point where we start getting frustrated and upset, and then we get labeled. I am like I've always been that. I was just being nice for a year. And yeah, like I've tried these situations and there's nothing that I can do to fix them. Like I've tried them. There's nothing that people don't, they've already like commodified me as this like cute little trans man. They're never gonna listen to me. I'm like a toy in their eyes that they can bat around. Like they're never gonna listen to me. They need to hear it from other cis people. Other cis people have to say, no, what you're doing is wrong. And the times that I've been in the situations and I've like voiced up in a million different types of ways, like politely, tried doing education, getting angry, like all the things have gotten nowhere. And the only thing that I could ever think in that situation is, God, I wish someone this person actually valued would speak up.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. Jack or Ro or Pearl or anybody that feels that they need to speak.
I have a follow-up thought, but I'll wait.
No. Up to you.
I definitely agree with everything that has been said. Interrupting and calling it out is, the biggest thing that you can do. And if you're doing that, then just continue to do that. I think a lot of people feel that they don't have a place in wanting to step in and whatnot. And I think that silence is very loud in certain aspects. So, I'd rather you say, hey, if you see a problem, say, hey, like, you need to cut that shit down, than to have you not say anything at all. So
Yeah, absolutely. What we have to remember is that inaction is a choice. Inaction is an action.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to like just cap like, yeah, I agree, but also like if these are cis folks, like at that point, like, yeah, you need to speak up. Sometimes, I mean, the one thing I'll say is like, in trying to give trans people the autonomy, right? Like checking in on them, also acknowledging that like you doing that, like I've had instances at gay bars where like men will just come up and touch me, and somebody will look at me like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to what?" Like as if I'm going to be honest in that moment, right? Because I don't know, like, what the fuck? Homie could just find me in a bathroom. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be honest, So like interrupting, right? Stepping into like whoever is, the other cis person, assume cis person, right? Like, cause we can't always be sure. Whoever is like invading someone's space, right? Like make that interaction happen. Cause you checking in on the trans person is great. And also acknowledge that like, you might not always get the truth, because if you think we're uncomfortable, imagine how we feel. There, like, so I try to make that clear, because I've had people check in on me like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm great, thanks." lying, like straight up lying, but like, you know, like we're the ones that have to walk to our car after. We're the ones who have to like go to the bathroom after, you know? So like make that interaction direct to that person. And like, yeah, check in on us, I guess, but like, don't assume we're always going to tell you the truth in front of the people, you know?
Yeah, you're so right, bro. Because there's been times where I've like called out some racist shit, and then because I was the one who had to do it, someone's found me at an event later and like come up to me in my wheelchair and grabbed it and been like, "Hey, I heard that we had a misunderstanding." And like, what am I supposed to do in that situation?
It's not okay.
I cannot believe that shit.
The eyes. That's what just got me. Mm-hmm.
People are brave out there.
They surely are.
People just haven't had the right ass whooping yet. just one will be a humbling experience for that one. Let me know if I ever come out to that part. I have family out there.
You're just gonna go on an ass whooping tour now? Is that it?
My type of party.
Hey, OnlyFans, but it's whooping ass of people that offend, that just are shitty people.
I also give advice to not just cis people, but I feel like everybody, but don't put your hands down somebody's pants non-consensually and then pull it out disgusted and surprised at what you found. Like,
That
don't
should
do
be
that.
anybody, not just for trans people.
Well, yeah, in general, just don't do that shit. I've had that happen too many times at like P-Town bars or like dungeons and stuff like that. Like, that's a no-go for me. Like, I'm all about like fun making out and all that shit. Like, you can put your hands on my pants, but don't be fucking surprised. Like, I don't know. It's so get consent. Consent is sexy as fuck.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Like, not even that, but necessary. Like, I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about everything you've all seen, but like, consent should be framed as necessary. That's one thing I really like about the kink community is the emphasis on consent, the emphasis on navigating and defining and like hearing each other out and figuring out where all the boundaries are and all the things. Like, that's a lot more normalized in kink space, I think, and that's really important. My follow-up thought, just while I'm here and talking, is like I just took that question as like, what do I do in the moment? But I think you're right. I just like decided it meant that, and it's not what it meant that. But the other piece is use that privilege when we're not in the room, and stand up for us when we're not in the room. So like, if you hear like, and this is anything, if you hear the wrong pronouns, interrupt that. But also like, if you are part of an organizing team for an event, talk about, hey, we thought about the safety of trans folks in this space. Hey, we thought about how to make sure that this space is welcoming to people of color. Like, bring it up, because we're not in that room. And you can look around this room and see we're not in the room, and you know why. And your voice has power in the room that we can't even get our voices into. So do it where we're not there to see you. Do it not expecting a reward. Do it and don't brag to us about it later. Just do it because that's your job.
See, I like you, Mel. I like you for a reason. Well, I really appreciate all that. I really appreciate all of you. You're absolutely amazing, cute little peoples. And if there are any other questions, even in the panelists, if you guys have any questions, sorry, I apologize for using guys. I used that just as overall, so I should have checked, and I very much apologize. But if anybody has any questions for anybody else, or in general, or any other comments or anything while we're closing this out, I'd very much like to hear from you. So, we have 9 minutes, so keep it to Spark Notes, please.
I don't have anything other than like thanks for the dialogue, y'all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, same. I got no questions. Just appreciate everyone's time and willingness to speak.
I'm definitely going to be taking this as a educational experience and like a fun experience.
Yes, I enjoyed my time today. It was great meeting everybody on the panel today. So, yeah, this was great.
Yes, I very much appreciate everybody. I will not stop saying that. You will hear it from me till the day I die, because I've gotten so much shit from this, from doing this event, just because I am doing it off of volunteer base. I really appreciate all of you, and I wish I can compensate you guys for your time and for your experience and your education and everything you have all done. So I apologize for not having that, but I do very much appreciate my friends here. And yeah, I am getting messages saying that bringing up this issue has been very important and a good reminder and has been great. And everybody that has messaged me so far says thank you. So I want you guys to know that that we are doing this for a reason, not just to cruise every one of each other from across the US and Canada.
But also that.
Also that. Oh, my cats are so cute. I just want to go cuddle with them now. But so I think I might go do that. I will message you all later. I'm gonna download this and do some things and figure it out for YouTube. So I'll send everybody the link once it's up. And yeah, please keep in contact if there is anything I need to change or anything I need to learn from, because I am always learning and always trying to be a better version of myself every day. So if there's anything that I need to do, let me know, and how I can use my privilege and my title and my platform and stuff to do better. So
Thank you so much for this.
Yes, thank you.
yeah, of course, my honor.
Thanks a lot for letting a newbie like me come.
Yes, of course. I'm glad we got to introduce you to some very, very important people. So
Hey, good boy Jack. Message, yeah, friend request me on Facebook.
yes.
You'll have some friends.
All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great evening, afternoon, whatever night it is for everybody, depending on where you're at. Hope the weather's better soon. But yeah, we will keep in contact, and I hope everybody has a great night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Hi, everybody.